Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain. This is kind of early fall. We've had some fantastic weather, and some of the things that it kind of got out of control during the pandemic that relate to landscape and things, we kind of let get way out of hand. One of the things is this area right here at the edge of our driveway and next to our house is we have some very old barrels that are they collapsed this year. And we're going to get rid of these guys and clean up a blackberry mess over there that also has some old boneyard stuff buried underneath it. So basically we've got a mess that kind of goes for about 50 feet all the way to that beautiful maple tree right there. And what we're going to do is clean this entire area out, and then we're going to invest in some new planters. We haven't yet decided whether we're going to go with the steel type corrugated steel type raised bed type thing, which might be kind of cool to kind of make it an arc going this way, get 2 or 3 of those guys, and then use those as flower beds coming forward for the next spring. So each of these barrels has a whole bunch of old bulbs in it, daffodils, some mascaris, and a whole bunch of other kinds of spring bulbs in it. So as I take these guys down, I got to get rid of all the bulbs, make sure they're taken out of this. And now's the perfect time to do it because everything is bone dry, so nothing is sprouted yet for next year. So we'll get this area all cleaned out, and then from that point, then we can figure out exactly how we're going to take care of putting in new raised beds in here. Time to get to work. Today we're doing a project. We're trying out some of these new type of corrugated steel powder coated well, they're containers for container gardening. So this is the Vego model. It's roughly 32 inch in height. It's called they have all kinds of different configurations. This is called a 6-in-1. So there's basically different ways you could have configured this thing together. But what we've chosen to do here is, this is for an edging that has never been landscaped. And what we're going to be doing is kind of using a combination of these that are kind of in a rectangular shape and some oak wine barrels to kind of give an edge to our driveway area. And so what we kind of just wanted to talk about was a little bit, these come in a kit that are really easy to put together. They give you all the parts. They even give you a little wrench to tighten down the bolts. And so it supposedly has about a 20-year life on it, and I'm assuming nothing gets scratched or anything like that. It should be pretty corrosion resistant. All the bolts are a stainless steel, and so they're not going to rust at all. So this is kind of a first for us. We've never used one of these before, so we went with the taller version. This is a 32 inch in height, and we buried it down about 6 inches in the ground. And then before we put the assembled unit on top on our leveled pad, we put down 1/2 inch square hardware wire down at the bottom, and kind of the hole for this is 2 foot wide, or the planter itself is 2.5 foot wide. We made the hole about a little less than 4 feet wide, and that way we were able to put down the hardware wire extending beyond the edge of the actual planter itself. So the reason we did that is what we wanted to do was to make sure that we kind of had protection for a while. I mean, it's not going to last forever, but it's a galvanized hardware cloth, and it should last a few years, and it'll keep the rodents from tunneling in underneath and coming in and getting things like tulips and things like that. Now it's not going to stop anything that wants to climb up the side, but at least it'll stop things like moles and things like that from getting inside of this larger container.
Why did we go with this? What happened to the wine barrels?
Well, the wine barrels in our climate, they didn't have that long of a life, even with some preservative on the outside of them. We only got about 10 years out of it. And
we planted in 2014 with them, and I'll show some pictures on that. They were beautiful, but once we started to dig out the tulips and daffodils, they just exploded.
Yeah, the inside of the staves rotted out first, and so because our climate is so wet for at least 9 months of the year,
the rings around it,
yeah,
just slipped down.
Because eventually, what happened is without the rings actually being tacked on, they tend to move, and it just, I think, we'll go with wine barrels as a replacement. But knowing full well that we'll get about 10 years out of them. But these guys will last
much longer,
up to
and we
20.
thought we'd give them a shot. And the second reason, when we went to look for wine barrels, they were gone.
Yeah, even though we're in wine country, there wasn't any available anywhere. The wholesaler who markets them to various garden centers and things like that is done for the year, and wasn't going to have any more available for till almost February, I guess.
And we had all kinds of bulbs coming for
So what
just
we wanted to
spot.
do is, well, we wanted to kind of change it up anyway, because when we started looking at saying, well, the length of a spot that we have to do here is about 50 feet, and what we wanted to do was kind of space a wine barrel, and then about 5 feet, and then one of these container systems, and another 5 feet of wine barrel, and then another container system. And actually it'll be about the same cost as if we had to put multiple wine barrels all the way through, because these half wine barrels aren't cheap anymore.
They used to be when we first got them. They were almost giving them away.
Yeah, you could get them for like $15, and now you can't even touch them for 50, 60 bucks a piece. And so when we looked at it and said, well, this 6-in-1 system was pretty affordable. They had free shipping on it, and it was, I think it was $250 and some change.
$239.
Was that what it was?
I think when they
because they had a discount.
Gave us a discount.
That's right. So it's let's say $240, which is the equivalent of about 5 wine barrels. So it's going to be a little more expensive, but then again, this is going to last a lot longer too.
And it's taller, so it's going to be a little easier on our backs.
Yeah, a little bit. So then what I wanted to kind of show you guys is, after we got it assembled here, well, how are we filling it? Because something like this, if you just were to fill it with potting soil, would be a huge amount. You'd be talking over a yard. I think they rated it at somewhere about 1.3 yards of actual space on the inside of these things in this configuration. And so that would end up being a lot of soil.
Prohibitively expensive.
So what we decided to do is to kind of take a Hugel Kulture approach to it, meaning that we'd fill...
Explain what Hugel Kulture is.
Probably people have encountered this. It's a German or Austrian technique. It's kind of was made popular in permaculture by Sepp Holzer in Austria, and it's been done all over. And it stands for hill culture in German. And what it means is, in the way they were using it, is they were making basically in Austria large berms that would be center filled with wood or logging slash, and then would have layers of finer and finer material, and the top would be basically topsoil. And as the wood would rot down, it would provide nutrients for plants going into it, water absorption, things of that nature. So there's been all kinds of variations on this since, and this is, in a sense, we call it Hugel Kulture, but basically what we're doing is we're taking pruning waste, like material like this from this fig tree, and we have some oak waste, and we have some maple waste, and we're taking cut up sticks, and we're putting it inside of this to kind of give us a fill that's cheap. And then we kind of fill the inside edges and the areas where there's gaps with compost soil and compost and straw and rotted down brush and things of that nature to kind of pack it in. So we built this thing in layers, and the pictures that we're showing here will show you kind of how we did it. And then this is kind of we're at the final layer of wood, and we've got about a foot or so from the top. Now, what we're going to do is fill this in with compost and with the potting soil that we dug out of our barrels, and then we're going to plant in here tulips and some daffodils.
And we're not really planting too many tulips. We're because our deer pressure is really bad and there's no way to protect them. But it's mostly daffodils, snowflakes, flower, little snowdrops, I guess.
What's a snowdrop?
It's a little grassy thing that comes up and puts a little white bell on the end.
Oh, okay.
And crocuses.
Okay.
It's mostly going to be that, and just to see how much the deer come after it. I have tulips, but I think they're going to go into the garden. But all the tulips we dug out of, or daffodils we dug out of the wine barrels, got to go in, plus the ones I just got.
Yeah, and I've got a whole crate of those that I took out of the barrels that we emptied.
So I think that daffodils are going to be the main thing, because I know the deer won't bother them.
Well, you're in charge of that. I'm in charge of filling the thing up.
Ah, okay. I picked the flowers. I did my job.
So that's kind of where this thing is at now, and we've got a load of some compost soil. We'll start the first layer in here.
We're going to kind of lasagna plant it, right? When you get it, we'll put the daffodils in the
as soon as I get this wood
part
covered, and then I'll wet it down to kind of make certain that stuff fills into the cracks, and I put more in, to kind of make sure that we've got enough. And then before we put the final layers of soil on, that's when we'll start planting the bulbs. We'll kind of spread them out, lay them out, put some dirt over, and maybe another layer. So the bigger the bulb will be deeper, and the smaller crocuses type things will be closer to the top. Right. So, and then when we finish, we'll be about 1.5 inches from the top, roughly.
Right.
And then the last thing we'll do, and we'll kind of show that in another video, is we're going to have to put some protection over the top of this, because we have cats. Lots of cats end up causing lots of problems. So we're going to put kind of a wire mesh over the top that won't be noticeable, particularly when the bulbs sprout and start growing through it, but it will keep the cats from using it as a litter box. It'll be uncomfortable for them. So that's kind of where we're at. So the next steps here are just kind of getting the work done.
Yep.
So I guess I got to get to it.
Yep.
Okay, so we've got it filled up. Basically, I put the first layer of compost down on top of the final wood layer, and we're now in the process of just going to wet this down and let it settle for overnight. I'm going to use enough water on here that I can get the looser materials down into the gaps between the wood, and then it'll probably drop 1 inch or so after I get that part done. And then we should be ready to just put a fine layer of potting soil, which we have left, down, and then plant, and then just start our various levels of planting.
What are some other things that you can put into this, not plant-wise, but just filling it up the space?
Well, it kind of depends on the what you have available. For us, we had a lot of prunings and things that were from small trees and things of that nature, so it worked out great for us. But if you don't have that available, what you can use to act as a filler, and some of these things will rot faster than other things, but you could use cardboard, you could use
shredded paper.
Shredded paper. You could use bokashi, things of that nature. Anything that basically, I think, though, you kind of want to orient to is slower rotting is probably better, because stuff that rots fast is gonna, the soil level in your planter is gonna drop pretty fast. So, the finer something is shredded, the faster it's gonna kind of drop. If you had well-rotted wood chips, that could also be something you could intermix in with any kind of sticks or anything of that nature. So like if you got some wood chips maybe from a tree pruning service that has sat around for a year or at least 6 months, that's begun the rot process pretty good, that would be something you could put in that would do it and give pretty good drainage too. So you could use that, or you could even use rocks. If somebody's saying, hey, you know what, I don't have wood, but I got a ton of rocks, you could put smaller rocks in it. But you got to be careful, because this isn't really designed structurally for a lot of side rigidity. So whatever you put in here, it's really got to be kind of almost designed in a way that it can not put too much pressure on the side walls itself. But rocks could be a good alternative to fill the space, and that they definitely wouldn't rot.
Nope.
So, but so we used what we had, and this is all free stuff. So we're not paying for buying in compost or potting soil or anything of that nature. And that was kind of our objective on this. Any other thoughts?
No, just giving this a try because we lost the wine barrels.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be kind of cool.
I think it's going to turn out to be really nice. It's just that, how plans are made, and then you have to shift real quick. We had the bulbs and then no planters.
Yeah. Then these things they shipped pretty fast.
Oh yeah,
we
really
ordered
fast.
it and we had it actually within 10 days. So
I don't even think it was that long.
Yeah, it was
these,
pretty fast.
These are the 32-inch, and there's another type that's 17 inches tall.
Right.
And then there's a whole bunch of different configurations and 4 different colors.
Yeah, again,
and then
though,
we're not being sponsored by them.
No, and the thing is I think with this kind of thing, there's a couple of different companies that do this, and you might even have someone locally in your area that's making these things too. The thing to be aware of though is that it's side strength. This is just regular corrugated steel. The same type of steel you'd see in like a drainage pipe or maybe on a roof, except they've obviously machined it, bent it, nicely, powder coated it. So there's no rust to it or anything like that. But the bottom line on it is, from a strength standpoint, you got to be careful to. It's not as rigid as something you'd build like a wood box, using 2-inch 2x12.
You don't sit
stuff
on
like
it.
there's no sitting on it. There's no, you just got to be careful how you fill it too, so that you don't push the sides out. And so all those things kind of be taken into account. But for just a small planter, that's only going to have flowers in it, spring bulbs and summer, maybe some annuals, petunias, things of that nature, it's going to work pretty good.
Right. So
on to planting.
On to planting.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, it's getting cold and very windy.
So here we are, the end of the day, end scene.
Yes.
Okay, so we let the wetted down material in here sit for a day, and it kind of settled down a bit, and we might have gained about another inch or so. But the material is ready for planting, and what we're going to do is we're going to start out with these are our big mixed daffodil bulbs. We got these on sale at a home center who was trying to clean out their inventory for the fall. So these are kind of a mix of the varieties they call all-in-one, and then there's another one that has Golden Ducat and Fortune. These are daffodils. Most of these would be, I think, what you call novelty daffs.
And naturalizers, probably.
Yeah, I guess they'll naturalize. We've planted some of these before. They're pretty cheap when you buy them this way. We're not looking for varieties that we're going to sell as cut flowers or anything like that. It's about adding a color spot. So I'm really being sophisticated in my planting method. People may ask about oh, can I put these in individually? And I'm just going to make sure they're kind of spread out, because basically I'm going to throw soil and compost over the top of these guys, and
We're
and then
not
plant.
egg cartoning.
No, it's like I'm not going to worry about it too much.
Well,
you know?
the thing on this is there's always been a question, can you just throw them out, and if they land upside down, will they come back up? Will they turn around and grow straight? And we tried that as a experiment for actual cut flowers, and what did we find?
We found that, yeah, they will turn around, and they will bloom, but they're not as good. You know, if you're trying to make a straight cut flower stem, particularly like tulips, you're going to get a J-hook type look at it. But
So it's better to place them.
yeah, but I'm not worried about them too much, you know.
Because that's not what we're growing these for. These are
Yeah.
not for cuts. These are for beauty.
So I'm just going to make sure they're not pointed downwards. And, you know, don't plant this way.
Plant with the tip up.
But I'm not going to make sure that they're all, you know, nice and neatly aligned and all that
But
kind
you're
of
not
stuff.
soldiering them up
No,
either.
not at all. I'm just kind of making sure they're kind of spread out. And, you know, that we got enough everywhere. Everywhere's got a little bit of them. And some of these guys, you know, over the year will over a couple of years will fill in. And some of them, they're just dried out. They weren't any good. Guess that's why they were on sale. And then once they're kind of all laid out like that, then the next step is I'm just going to go put some soil on it and some
Can you add
compost.
some of the originals?
Yeah, and then the next level will be some of the smaller ones. So then we have, this is a broad variety of mostly daffodils, but there are some other smaller bulbs in here.
There's, I think, hyacinths in there.
You know, some of these guys,
Right.
this isn't a hyacinth, but I think it's like a,
No, the tall, thin, like Spanish ones that grow under trees.
oh, okay.
I'm not sure on the name. I put those
Well, there's
in.
muscari in there too, so. Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah, because I got some that are like this that have that orange or purple look to the top. But I'm just gonna kind of spread these guys around and, you know, make sure I got a handful of a little bit of everything. You see, it's a real complicated planting process. Now, some people will say, well, you know, it's not going to be as lush as if you know, specifically planted in a specifically organized way. And I think the whole point, I guess, I'm going for here is kind of a diversity of things. So I'm going to have.
You have more pots here.
Yep,
So
I've got plenty. It's not that I don't have enough. It doesn't even look like I took anything out.
It looks like it over there.
So we got a bit of everything in here.
Kind of just.
Kind of
we'll
make
see
sure
what
it's kind of
comes up.
spread around. Some of the daffodils, I'll make certain that they're not pointed downwards.
There's no tulips.
No tulips in this. This is going to be like a daffodil, muscari. Don't want that. We don't need to describe what that was. Let's just say it's related to a cat. And that, we should get a nice variety of things in here. All right, so we planted it out. It was pretty fast, and then we covered it with soil over the top. And the last step I'm going to do is just wet it down, and that's all we're going to need to do for the actual planting purposes. And I'll do on another video what we're going to do for protection from animals digging in it until these things kind of come up and start to grow.
Hopefully I'll have some pansies to put in on the meantime.
Yeah, we got to find some of those at like a garden center or something.
I have some seed. I'm going to guess I could try and get them going again.
Either way,
they didn't work. Something killed them.
yeah, we lost a few of those. Sometimes they do really well, and sometimes they just don't. But if we can find a few other things, maybe at a garden center, we'll just keep our eyes peeled open for a deal. Right now, everybody's focusing on Christmas stuff, so it's not so much. Primroses and pansies aren't necessarily on their list. And poinsettias just won't cut it out here.
No.
So anyway, folks, we just kind of wanted to show you how this thing goes together, how to fill it, and then the last step was planting it up. And hopefully we'll get a number of years of use out of this that'll last us for a long time. One of the things we'll do this spring is we'll put an irrigation line coming in from the bottom up so that I can get drip into this thing. We'll get once we have all our planters lined up, that'll be our biggest and final step, is so that we can hook it up to our drip irrigation, which is header is just right over there. So
and
that
it's
way,
on a timer too.
and it'll be on a timer, so it'll be kind of a little bit more self-sufficient. Any other thoughts?
Just hope it comes out and looks as pretty as my barrels did in the past.
Well, you can show a picture of that.
I did.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that I get that same pretty look out here.
I think it'll work. Sometimes the first year with daffodils, they're not as thick as you'd like them to be.
They're
because
a little soldier-like.
Yeah, a little bit, but and probably the second year will look even just massively better. So,
right.
And as the material in here rots and goes down, we'll complement it with a mixture of compost and soil, and just kind of keep building it back up, because the wood will rot and it will begin to sink. Air gaps in it will eventually get filled in by whatever worms are moving things around. So we fully expect this to kind of drop over time. But the daffodils, as they reproduce, they'll reproduce on top of the old ones, and so they'll continue to kind of move up. So it'll be kind of a thing of saying, well, how much do you add every year into this for a number of years? And it's probably going to end up being like, maybe an inch to so. It won't be a rapid drop. I'm not going to come out next spring and find out, holy wow, it's halfway down. No, that's not going to happen. It'll take a number of years for that wood to get to the point where it compresses down and rots out. So
I got plans for what it's going to have in it during the summer too.
Yep.
So I'm going to try and have this pretty.
Yep.
All the time, except for right now.
Okay, well, I guess that kind of wraps this one up. So want to say thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe out there, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.